I was almost about to give up going to catch the train. And then, since I was standing near to the staircase, three random people just came there and offered to carry my stroller down. And it was like, I was so taken aback that even with the rush hour, people are still asking and noting that someone needs help.
Hi guys, thank you for tuning in to PsychMic. This show is an initiative by the student marketers of James Cook University, where a group of us, helpfully obsessed in psychology, attempt to bring in complex research into our daily lives.
In each episode, we dive into a psychological topic with a critical twist to see what gives. And without any further ado, let's dive right into it.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the speakers involved and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of James Cook University Singapore or any of its affiliates. This content is provided for informational purposes only and should not be construed as definitive legal advice.
Hey there, and welcome to a new episode with PsychMic. Today it's a discussion between me, Robin, and I have Smita here with me.
Thank you, Robin.
Welcome, and thanks for joining.
My pleasure. Thank you for asking me to join.
Yeah, it's always good to have people, and especially with you as an associate professor here at JCU. We're very honored.
Thank you so
Someone
much.
like you. And yeah, before I talk too much about you, would you like to state a little bit of your background and how you got to this position?
So I'll start first with my introduction. I have been in Singapore for almost 20 years now, and I came here to do my PhD at NUS. And I started my PhD journey by working with my supervisor who was in social psychology. So my PhD topic, basically was kind of an interdisciplinary topic between social and organizational psychology. But I would rather see it as more social psych, because social psychology is something which I was always very much interested in, and most of my research has been in social psychology as well. So my PhD topic was where I applied an interdisciplinary socio-cognitive psychology research on understanding how people perceive their leaders at workplace. So I applied the construal level theory and understanding, how perceptions of a leader is shaped by the traits a leader carry, or the behavior the leader depicts, and the relation a leader develops with their subordinates. So it was also, the topic kind of sits in the discussion and in the research domain of social judgment. And I closely followed Susan Fisk's approach on universal dimensions of social judgment in my PhD thesis.
Okay, we have quite a few terms here already. Can we unpack that a little bit? So we have social construal, right, in terms of
Construal
I
level
understand
theory.
that how we apply our thoughts and decisions, right?
Yes, exactly.
On in terms of the workplace and the relationship, the dynamics between the workers and the bosses in that regard, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And how does that play out?
So what my thesis basically discovered that, and it was aligned with what Susan Fisk's approach was, that there are two major dimensions of judgment, and everybody around us, we judge them based on warmth or competence domain. So in my research, I found that, in my PhD research, I found that leaders are judged primarily the warmth, on the dimensions of warmth. Okay, so while it matters, competency matters, but warmth self, or the relationship orientation of the leader, is primarily seen and expected by their subordinates. So
Like their kind of interpersonal skills, how they treat you at your workplace.
yes.
I can see that. Yeah, I mean, there's very competent people who are very cold, and you wouldn't take much advice from them, I presume.
I agree with you, and there have been so much research in that domain. So I found something similar along the lines. I also found that, yes, while warmth is expected, and hoped for, competence is respected, right? So I found that a boss will be respected more because of his competencies. But as a subordinate, I would rather prefer a warm leader than a competent one.
Yeah.
So that was one of the takeaways, and which aligned with some of the other papers or research which has been done in this area.
Right.
So it kind of reinstated the supremacy of warm dimension on, judging leader at workplace.
I see. So even when it comes with a bit less competency, like
Yeah.
probably not no competency at all, right?
Well, that's a different debate altogether.
But it doesn't need to be like top of the game.
Yes, so we definitely want, all of us would want a boss who can actually look after us, right?
Right, yeah.
And who can have a positive relationship with us.
So this particular notion kind of still influence my current research as well, where I'm also interested to look into how these relationships somehow transcend into the other actions or other behaviors which takes place at work. So how a leader can, or the kind of organization or the culture or the climate which is created by the leader's behavior can in a way influence a more pro-social behavior at work.
Yeah.
How the subordinates can look after each other, and how it can influence small act of pro-socialness on a daily basis.
Okay.
So basically positive social relationship building and so on.
So
See, it's kind of the red thread that went through your kind of path in research.
Yes.
So both social and organizational. Even though you mentioned like the social one is quite, I mean, it's a quite big kind of area, right?
Yes.
Like, I guess I would also position myself somewhere in the social psychology area. And
yes,
for transparency reasons, we share pro-social interests.
yeah.
So, yeah, can you help us narrow down a little bit to get a better sense of where you locate yourself in that with pro-social behavior, perhaps?
Okay, so since I've been doing research in this area for the last 15 years after my PhD, there have been a lot of other, I should say, attractions and not distractions to other domains, which I would want to, also see how does it play a role. Like what other factors are important to drive a pro-social behavior, just not at workplace, but in individual. So with my students, I have done some research in understanding how parenting can shape pro-social tendencies. Okay.
Oh, it's really broad, is it?
It is broad, but when it comes down to the papers we have published in the domains, it will be quite narrow. However,
The reality of doing research.
the reality of doing
Big
research,
topics into very
yes.
small fields.
So we have done a lot of research in this direction. I have not found, yes, there are some papers are in the pipeline to be published. Some did not work out at the way we wanted it to work out.
Another reality.
Another reality, yes. So I have in the past, in the recent years, I have done research in understanding how parenting or types of parenting shapes pro-social behaviors, right? And I have not just tried to look at pro-social behavior as it's in itself, but I have also looked it in the form of traits. Okay, if you're familiar with the categorization of other profitability and self-profitability traits.
Oh, you have to explain that one.
Okay.
So it comes along the warmth and cold dimension of Susan Fiske, and basically what it highlights is how we often develop self-profitable traits more, and we are shaped at a very young age to be, more competent or more time efficient, or develop those things like hardworking. We are always socialized to, include these traits within us. And
The
these-
self-enhancing ones, kind
Yes,
of.
the
to
self-profitable
always get
ones.
better. I mean,
Yes, so
I guess
that-
especially Singapore is nurturing that to a
Yes, absolutely. So So self-merit traits is something which will enhance an individual, but other profitable traits like being helpful, being kind, where we think about others. So this is where I kind of went into seeing how those traits relate to has a societal impact, right? And in Singapore setting, those are important. It is a very meritocracy driven place, and people thrive based on their merit, right? So in the same case, how does that, when people are so driven to enhance their self-profitable traits, does that impact them to not be higher on their other profitable traits? So one era of my research, a significant portion of my postdoctoral research has been in this direction as well. And I see that other profitable traits like being kind, generous, and even intelligent, right, can enhance an individual's impact on others and also make society perhaps more helpful and more positive, right? So I relate that to prosocial behavior as well. So in that, while investigating that, I, with my students, have done research on at cultural differences. And by studying different ethnic groups in Singapore and also the different parenting styles. So we have been doing research in that. And
the ones where you kind of offer more towards authority or more towards warmth.
Towards warmth.
And those opposites again as well.
Yes. So one of my a doctoral student, Kitiga, has done research on helicopter parenting.
Oh yeah, shout out to Kitty.
Yes, where she kind of looked at how helicopter parenting lead to many factors,
Right, that one sure is in everyone's mouth, kind of the parents that are taking care of everything and forbidding kids from doing anything, except from studying.
Too much of studying, too much emphasis of studying.
Too little of
So basically micromanaging, right? Everything.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, micromanaging a kid's schedule, and how does that impact on emerging adults' choices?
Yeah.
Okay, so she went on to look for prosocial behavior and other such factors. So that has been my interest lately. And if you ask me where I'm going towards in organizational setting, I also apply that. And I feel.
Can I first ask, what did you get out of that study or research on helicopter?
We have published few things from there. We did find some relation, some positive impact in terms of that helicopter parenting was kind of not as much as we have hoped. It was not a significant predictor of low prosociality. But we did find that some of the subdomains, it does have an impact. So while just commuting today, I got another good news from Kitiga that one of our other papers, which was not really linking these two, but something on these direction, has been accepted. So I think it's better to look at those research outcomes from the Google Scholar page of the student, because I give her credit to do this. Yes.
Which deserves.
Which she deserves, right?
I mean, it's almost a good thing that helicopter parenting is not messing up the kids that completely.
You should do papers.
With a note in small text.
Right.
Yeah.
So
give some autonomy still back. But
yes.
certain things you mentioned we should look out for.
Yes.
In how we raise our kids, and then who eventually will lead up in the workplace, right? Where they deal with hierarchies again.
Yes.
Which then is subject to kind of these behaviors again. And from what I understand, you look both at from the workers, and you focus more and more on also how the leaders can kind of portray these prosocial traits or behaviors. Maybe also what interests me when I ask this question, like how is the distinction between the trait side and the behavior side?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that. So, see, when I say traits, the traits in itself is a different domain, right? It's a different construct as in itself, and it's often studied with questionnaires and surveys,
Yeah.
and so on. Well, when it comes to behavior, it can be the micro behaviors you do at workplace.
Yeah.
So one of my research, which we did, we actually tested the we kind of deceived. I shouldn't use the word deceived.
That's what we do in psychology.
We used a covert a measure of understanding how likely are participants going to help other students in a given scenario. So we asked them after they did a certain study, and it was basically priming them to think in using the control level theory, asking them to think either in abstract reasoning. So they went on to do some questions which highlighted or which primed them to use some abstract reasoning versus some concrete reasoning. Why do you study versus how do you study? So
When I understand that correctly, it's kind of like shaping their thought patterns into a certain direction.
Yes.
Where you want them to behave in a later stage of the study, right? That's kind of the deception in here, not a...
So actually the deception was different, but it was mainly priming. So it was like, they went on answering a lot of... So it was a between subject design where half of the participants went on answering, why do they study? Okay, so whatever you answer as why, you are pushed to think or use your higher order reasoning, right? You think about your values. Or why am I studying? Why am I sitting in this 9 a.m. lecture room, right?
For kind of self-interest. So.
Yes, and you're like, oh, I want to be somewhere, and it kind of resonates with your inner values, which is definitely a higher values, right? Versus how do you study? Okay, I study with maybe music on, okay, which I'm not promoting, by the way, but still. I maybe study with in a library, in a quiet setting. So you go on breaking down those behaviors. So that becomes a concrete or lower level of reasoning, lower order reasoning. Okay. So what we found was when participants are primed with higher order reasoning, our hypothesis or our assumption was they would end up showing more prosocial behavior. This is what the literature had highlighted.
When they think about all those goals and values they have.
Yes, exactly.
I think so as well.
So,
However.
But this is a problem with studying prosocial behavior. You can't go and ask people, hey, will you help do this 20-item questionnaire and respond? Would you help someone?
Of course. I will save the world. And
so the social desirability issue becomes a big thing. So what we did in that particular paper, and it's published, is that when a participant thought they finished the experiment and they went out of the experiment hall, they were met by a student volunteer who pretended to be just asking people to sign up or volunteer for some helping activities, some charitable behaviors around. And it was like just a 5-item questionnaire or something like that.
Okay.
And most of the participants who said yes were the ones who were in the abstract reasoning or the higher order question, the ones who responded to the why questions. Okay?
So as intended or...
Yes. So this is how we kind of deceived and covertly observed prosocial behavior.
Yeah.
However, I still would say that measuring prosocial behavior has been a challenge. Therefore, in any setting, because it is often critiqued by, or it is often, gets dominated by the fact that who will not want to say on a paper that I don't want to help?
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
So that's what I have been doing, that, trying to find out how to measure prosocial behavior differently.
Yeah.
And when you ask
And
about
you're tending towards more the kind of behavioral kind of
yes,
tasks.
behavior and
life
tasks.
things.
The other thing about the traits you ask. So when we study traits, it can be some form of very self or honest response on some of the item.
I would presume it's more difficult to measure that through behavior and
Yes, then action is definitely be difficult, and often you can't convince your critics when you're sending a paper to publish how exactly we took care of many other things, right?
right.
So that's
To get very creative, like some of the psychology papers, right? That
yes. So if I bring it down to the organizational setting, like what my future research questions or what my future research is basically covering is I'm trying to also include how small leadership or leaders' behaviors can enhance or maybe limit a prosocial action, therefore limiting a positive social relationship at workplace. For example, what I have thought about or what we are planning to do is asking the employees to maintain a diary and longitudinally, write whether they did anything to help anyone or basically list down their behaviors, 10 behaviors of the day without labeling it as positive or negative, right?
kind of reflecting on what they did.
Reflecting on what they did, that I can understand that making sense of that response will be huge. But I think that again, that will be a way of measuring whether that will be positive or negative, or can that be grouped as prosocial or not.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in looking at if a leader who has shown inclusivity at workplace, does that lead to more positive social relationship building or more pro-social behavior at workplace among the
Like for
employees?
others as well, yeah.
Yes.
This kind of idea that
Yes.
you
So
do
this
something
is
good and you spread the seed around.
yes. So this is something recently which I'm trying to do and study.
Yeah, yeah. I think that sure will work better when instead of like asking them like what good things have you done to improve
Yes.
your workers.
Yes, of course. I hope
Then I
I
will mention many good.
many things, and you are aware how that qualitative data will turn out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yes.
They are in that position because they know how to sell out themselves already anyways.
Yes.
So is the idea kind of to get more inherently pro-social leaders, bosses, or whether we can work with like the bosses we have at this point and make them a little bit better as well?
Yes. So at least to understand, I feel that could lead to a direct. I mean, the implications I'm drawing is directly to the policies, right? So how every organization would want in today's era to have inclusive policies which promote inclusivity, equality, or equity, right? But how is that reflected and interpreted by the employees? That is another important challenge.
Oh, for sure. And
Right?
that's a big kind of critique we have right now, right? That is not really considered so much in the hiring process.
Absolutely. So that has a huge impact, and I would want to see its impact on employees' prosocialness towards others, towards the work environment. So this is where I'm currently moving forward.
Yeah. Do you imagine kind of a line of arguments one can make to kind of sell this? Because I guess like whenever we propose some change in especially in the workforce, there's some opposition to that.
So I'm glad you asked. See, this is where the data I will have to depend upon the data, especially since it's this research which I'm planning, it's going to be a qualitative study, right?
We love qual.
Yes. So I feel that I'll have to depend upon the data, how it directs, or what directions will it give us. Let's see where it goes, right? Since I'm also the program lead for Masters in Business Psychology, one of the subject at least two of the subject. One is the leadership, creativity, and innovation, and there is another one which is going to be equality, diversity, and inclusion. I think these two subjects has basically, made me think about doing this research. So I'm not teaching equality, diversity, inclusion. I'm just contributing few lectures there, not the whole. It's being taught by Dr. Sherry, and she's the subject coordinator. But I feel that there's a lot of overlaps, and for today's work environment, this has to be reinforced and understood, and more research is done to really get some positive outcome out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. We have, I think, a few more time. But when you think about it as a university lecturer, you already have sort of a leadership position in here as well, right? How do you kind of see yourself implementing all that knowledge you have gathered around prosociality?
That's a very good question. I feel the very important part is be respecting everybody, just not your colleagues or your supervisor, your boss, but even everyone at every level, and bringing a more harmonious and collegial relationship, right?
Yeah.
I mean, disagreement is important, right? It helps us grow. I would never say that, we should be polarized to just support something because we want to avoid conflict. I would say that, you must have collegial, open-minded discussion, and you should be critiqued or criticized, not criticized, but you should have a critical input by everybody who is around you. That will help you to understand, how can you do better? How can it be a benefit for everybody? And at the same time, you are fair, right?
Yeah.
So that's the most important thing. And I try to do that.
As
Yeah.
implementing in the classroom,
Yes,
to have open
yes.
discussions.
Yes, but I'm learning. I am many times I may fall short of, not really implementing
I see.
the exact thing which I should do. But we all have to keep learning and keep growing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to do that as well, what do you see as kind of pitfalls, like easy ways you could forget about, or where you have saw yourself forget about this? Because that's the other, right? We all want to be pro-social and helping everybody.
Yes.
It's not that we don't care, but sometimes we just
Yes.
aren't able to.
I am glad you asked this question, because this is the largest challenge in being helpful, right?
Yeah.
And it comes from what we know in social psychology literature, why we sometimes fail to help someone or think about others, right? Then one of the factors often noted is the time.
Right.
Right? We are so busy in our day-to-day deliverables and our expectation that we sometimes just feel like, hey, if I finish my work, that's it, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, we may overlook how it may have impacted someone else, right?
Yeah, totally. It's so easy to forget in the rush of things.
Yes, easy to forget in the rush of the things. Since you have asked rush, and I think you may be familiar with the work overload theory, which was about urban overload theory, which highlighted that how people who are living in urban setting sometimes fail to help others.
Right.
Than compared to people who are not living in urban settings, right?
Can you make that distinction?
So that was an old study. It was done in 70s and 80s, and it compared Kenya, a sample from Kenya, with the US population, and they argued that, I may be wrong which two countries were there, but one was grouped as urban and one was grouped as rural. Okay, so it may not be Kenya, but some other place and some other sample. And that what they argued, and they eventually discussed, that people in the urban setting are so rushed and so little time they have to do so many things, they kind of at times forget to look after others, because they are like, hey, I have to get my work done first.
Yeah.
Right? But I don't see that always to be true. I'm sure I had discussed this before. I shared with you my experience. Then once I was stuck in a London subway, and I discovered I was with my toddler who was sleeping and quite heavily jet lagged in her stroller. So I didn't want to disturb her, and I was looking for an elevator to go down to the platform, to the train station, to board the train, and I couldn't find one. So I thought what to do. I'm stuck in the London, one of the most populated and highly, a lot of people around there, and everybody was rushing to catch the train. It was around rush hour, 5 o'clock, or starting to be rush hour in the evening. Then I was almost about to give up going to catch the train, and then since I was standing near to the staircase, three random people just came there and offered to carry my stroller down. Okay, and it was like I was so taken aback that even with the rush hour, people are still asking and noting that someone needs help.
Yeah, true.
So I was thinking about this urban overload theory, and I was thinking in the London subway rush hour, it doesn't apply, right?
Yeah. Not to everyone, at least.
Not to everyone, at least. And it was just not me who was offered help. It was to a lot of people who were just waiting there for strangers to come and help them. So there were other mothers with the babies in stroller, or there was someone who wanted to go down and they were not fit enough to be, able to go down the stairs, and they just wanted someone to help them down.
Yeah.
So I was quite amazed. So there is more than a simplistic explanation of why people help or not help. So maybe an urban overload may not be applicable.
Yeah.
And so coming back to the question you asked, so what are the factors which make people helpful or not helpful, right? So there are many other things also. And it's a complex question. It's quite a lot of other things which are also involved, especially when we talk about workplace, where people have their own vested interest involved, right?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you kind of raise that and make that counterpoint as well, because
Yes.
we're not just not helping because we don't want to or because we're evil, but at the same time we shouldn't always just brush it off as such, like, oh, it's just people don't have time and then they don't help because of that.
Yes, so there are
Still people who make out, and we should kind of think about how to activate or harness these kind of tendencies in people after all. Yeah.
Absolutely. So there are more than one factors involved. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks for raising that. I think that's a good kind of summary to end our discussion on. We could, I think, have at least 10 more episodes on it.
Okay. Yes, we can. I'm sure. Thank you, Robin. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, such a great discussion. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
And that was our episode with Smita Singh today.
Thank you.
And I hope you join in soon again. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.